Welcome everybody. I know we're probably gonna have some late stragglers. My understanding is that some are getting out of clinic late and will be joining, but we do have an audience now. So everybody, thank you for coming. My name is Derek Robinson. Again, Dr. Ryan Evans is here. We also have Steve Lee in attendance. We'll all be having a nice little conversation about everything, but the rock star of the show will be Dr. Ryan Evans today. Before we get started, I want to show this opportunity that Aspen Dental is actually having for all non-Aspen dentists. That includes all dental students. Until March 2021, we're actually offering our entire CE catalog and free CEs to all of you. So aspendentalce.com/welcome will give you an opportunity to check that out. We have an entire library. I think there's thousands of CEs that you have an opportunity to check out. And I actually got a couple of questions on that, so we'll talk about that today. So I just wanted to mention that first before we get rocking and rolling. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Ryan Evans.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome.
So just to give them an idea of kind of how we're going to do stuff, we're just going to go from start to finish, not from when you were born, but we'll start when you're in dental schools, recruiting stuff, and then move our way basically to where you're at now. How does that sound?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So hey guys, my name's Ryan Evans. Grew up in Southern California, went to UC Santa Barbara for undergrad, got into UCLA dental school. I always knew I wanted to be a general dentist. I worked at a general dentist office while I was an undergrad. I loved it. I loved both the small business side and, the doctor was a little bit older, so he'd been in that practice for, 35 years. And I love the relationships, the long-term relationships that he had with his patients. So, from that experience, I knew I wanted to do general. I moved into dental school and I got super involved with ASDA. My second year, I was the legislative liaison. Third year, I was the ASDA VP. And, obviously there's all the events nationally. And through those, I got to know one of the Aspen recruiters really well. His name was Chris Robinson. Still a good friend. I stay in touch with him today.
No relation.
Yeah, that's right. No relation. He's a good dude. But so throughout, from starting my second year, I would see him at events. He would take me and the other ASDA guys out to dinner. Sometimes he would even swing by UCLA and we'd hang out. And, pretty much from the very beginning, I would always tell him like, hey, Chris, man, I like you, but I can promise you I'm never going to work for Aspen. Not because I had anything against the company, but just they weren't in California at the time. And I just was like, hey, man, I'm never going to leave California. And he's just like, oh, man, don't worry about it. Like, it's fun hanging out. And we did that a number of times, over a couple of years. And, fast forward to about January of my fourth year, your grad year hits and you're like, all right, hey man, like what, I got to figure out what I'm going to do afterwards. So I started looking for jobs around Southern California. And the job market was tough for new grads. There's a lot of dentists in Southern California, especially Los Angeles. And I recall there was one day specifically where I went down to Venice Beach, really nice office, really cool doctor. And he wanted to hire me for Thursdays, paying me below market value. And he told me I was going to be doing prophies and fillings. And I went home and I was like, oh man, like this is not the deal, like with these student loans, the cost of living. So I called Chris and I was like, hey man, like let's, what opportunities does Aspen have? What opportunities do they have? What can we do? And, we kind of bounced around and, we found an opportunity for me in Texas. So upon graduation, I packed up my truck and I drove to Texas.
That's awesome. So this is my question to you. This is not a question that was given by those in attendance.
Okay.
Feel supported by the company.
I did. Yeah. I really would say from day one until now, they have taken care of me. Kind of going back, like one of the things that made me feel comfortable making the jump and moving to Texas was, when we were exploring for opportunities, they were trying to find a mentor doctor that I would get along with. And they ended up hooking me up with, his name is Dr. Altawadi. He owns a couple practices in Central Texas. And before signing up, before, agreeing to do it, they flew me out. They flew me out there. I'd never been there before. They got me a rental car. I drove over to the office, and him and I, he actually went to UCLA, USC dental school. And him and I had a couple mutual friends. So we just, we immediately got along. We immediately felt comfortable with each other. So them, facilitating that interaction, that interview, in addition to, a number of other things, I did feel supported, and I felt comfortable making the move.
And so just to clarify to everybody, Dr. Evans and I, we work for two different companies. I'm on the Aspen Dental Management side. Dr. Evans works for Aspen Dental, the dental company. And all our major job is to essentially support the doctors in that office. So can you mention maybe a couple ways that they are, like the Aspen Dental Management side is supporting you and supporting your endeavors inside that office?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the easiest way to put it is there's somebody I could call for any issue that may arise, or, whatever situation that comes up, there's someone I can call. Like for when we were, I've opened a couple of offices from scratch, and, there's somebody there for everything, whether it's the construction, the lease, the permits. There's somebody else that helps with the hiring, someone else that helps with supplies. And then, upon opening, once the offices get up and running, there's people I can go to for, ongoing clinical support. There's people for, HR, working through, if the staff is having issues or needs help with something. There's, any, whether it's a billing issue, an insurance issue, like whatever issue comes up, there's a department or there's a person that's at Aspen, that's all they do all day. It's like, hey, we have an insurance question. Hey, we're going to talk to the insurance guy. So there really is an avenue of support for every facet of running the practice.
That's awesome. Also the one thing I like to say is that we provide no corporate instruction to our docs. So they're the ones running the whole show, making all the decisions in that office. And that's kind of the one thing that I notice is a very big standout as well. Can you elaborate a little bit on kind of how you go about business and how you kind of stay out of it?
Yeah. So that, that really is true. I probably I wouldn't be sitting here today if if there's any influence on the type of dentistry I was doing. From day one, every office is a little bit different in the way that it's run, but pretty much from the start, I've been doing my new patient exams, doing my treatment plans all on my own. I do what I'm comfortable doing. If there's something I'm not comfortable doing, like, a molar endo or, a super medically complex patient that even if it's a simple extraction, they're probably best seeing a specialist. Like, I can refer the patients that I deem, that need to be referred. I can do the type of dentistry I want to do. And then, like you said, they really are there, just there for support. I speak with the people from Aspen frequently, almost daily. I'm talking to somebody from headquarters. But yeah, the type of dentistry I'm doing and the my day-to-day stuff is all on me.
That's awesome. We got a question that just came in that's on this topic, and what I'll do is we'll go there and then we'll start back at dental school. Where are they then referred to? Are they referred to a different local Aspen office?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So, and it varies by area. Mm-hmm. So, so right now, I opened the first Aspen in Southern California, and we just hired our first oral surgeon. So for the last few months, if I needed to send them to an oral surgeon or an endodontist, before the office opened, I just drove around town and I introduced myself and I met the different local specialists. So I've made friends with just, the Rancho Mirage endodontics and the Palm Desert oral surgery. So I'm referring them to local specialist, just like you would in a private practice.
That's awesome.
But to elaborate on that, so then back in Texas, both of the offices I worked at in Texas, we had an oral surgeon. They would come 1 to 2 days a month, depending their schedule. So if it made sense, like if, they had a healed extraction site that was ready for an implant and the surgeon wasn't coming for 3 weeks, yeah, we just schedule them with the surgeon. It's non-emergent. If they were in 10 out of 10 pain, infected, impacted wisdom tooth, and again, even if though we had a surgeon, I would still send them to the local surgeon.
That's awesome.
And then he is right too. Sometimes, like with that said, when there was more Aspens in Texas, so the surgeon would be at my office, let's say once a month, but then maybe he was going to be at another Aspen 10 minutes away tomorrow. Yeah, we could schedule that patient with the surgeon at a different Aspen. So really, it just comes down to what makes sense for the patient, what makes sense for the schedule. There's a lot of flexibility and ways to go about it.
Patients come first all the time, right? Continuity of care. The fact that they're staying inside the network makes them feel a little bit more at home. And I think that's a really good thing that our doctors like to show to the patients. All right, let's get into dental school. So you graduated 2017, right?
2017, 3 years.
Okay, so this is still relevant. What was your most memorable experience in school?
Oh man, well, in the clinic and outside. I mean, most of my favorite memories from dental school were definitely outside of the walls. Mainly the ASDA events, man. Those were so much fun. Met so many cool people. People nationwide. Some work for Aspen, some don't, some specialized. Made a lot of good friends through Aspen. So that's awesome. That was pretty cool.
Question that came in: what's the biggest difference in flow from clinical rotation in school to what you're doing now?
Yeah, well, huge difference in flow. I mean, there's obviously more patients coming in. And I guess just specifically speaking of rotations, like, so let's say you're on, like I did my oral surgery rotation at the West LA VA. So like, yeah, hey, I'm on that rotation and I'm taking out teeth all day. You're either taking them out or assisting or watching, it's just extraction after extraction. Whereas my life today, I'm a general dentist. So it's like, I may prep a crown, go deliver a denture, do a root canal, see a new patient, do a filling, so you're constantly, I think just general, that's how general dentistry is you're switching up gears. So, that's definitely a different flow. I think the assistants, especially newer assistants, tend to struggle with that a little bit more just because there's so many different instruments and so many different setups. So it definitely takes a couple months of working together for everyone to be on that same page of, what we need for a crown prep versus, just doing a filling or something like that. So that's a big difference in flow.
So what perks are available for a doctor straight out of school, and which ones do you use the most? So my guess is, what sort of resources are available? And then I can kind of piggyback on it if you have any.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the perks for me, like, so coming straight out of dental school, the things that, kind of pushed me over and made me comfortable signing up with Aspen was obviously the guaranteed income. You get a guaranteed daily draw. And, I was one of those people that, throughout undergrad, throughout dental school, I never looked at my student loan balance. I ignored it. I didn't think about it.
It didn't exist, right?
It didn't exist, out of sight, out of mind. And then when you see, when you see that number, you're like, oh my God. So having a guaranteed daily income, that was definitely a perk. And then, the clinical side, like, so for me, I've said this multiple times. So like, I've talked to other dentists, young dentists that are associates in private practice. And one of their biggest complaints to me are, my owner doctor does all the cool stuff. Like if there's an implant crown, he'll seat the implant crown. If, there's a super easy bridge that comes in, he'll do the bridge, because they're paid off production and only their own production. Where, in the Aspen model, if there's multiple doctors, everyone's working as a team and we all get paid out of the same pot. So like right out of dental school, Dr. Altawadi, like if a cool case or a big case would come in, he would let me go, go do those extractions or go do that bridge prep. And he's like, yeah, I'll do the adjustments and take care of the new patients. Like there was no competition for personal production. It was kind of a team effort of, taking care of the patients and getting through the day. So
and does that go also with the specialists that come in and out of the office as well?
Yeah. So the specialists are also contributing to the same pool, which we, so when the specialists come in and they produce, we, I do end up getting a small piece of that, but, so same thing. It's not a competition. Like if the patient, if maybe I could get the wisdom teeth out, but it would take me longer, the patient's anxious. But since the surgeon's all contributing to the same pot, it's better for the patient. I have no problem having them do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's success for the office, right? And that's
Yeah,
kind of the most important part, which is great.
absolutely.
So we got a question in regards to kind of the process of how you inquired. And I know you briefly went into that, but how did the interview process work and how did you become interested in Aspen as a dental student?
So okay, it's kind of between so there's the whole ASDA thing I mentioned, and then prior to us even going down the road to Texas, when I had reached out to Chris, I was like, hey, like I'm looking at Aspen. What he told me was, hey, we have this thing called the vibe session. I think it was actually either the first or second vibe session that ever happened. He's like, hey,
Probably.
yeah, he's like, hey, we have this thing. It was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Nice.
He was like, do you want to come? I was like, yeah, sure. So he's like, no, no commitments, no anything. Just we'll fly you to Georgia. You can meet some people, and then you can get a little, little experience with the company. And it was awesome. I met so many cool people. There's probably a couple hundred people there, a combination of both doctors and the Aspen clinical support team, the ADMI people. And everyone was so cool. Everyone was so nice. I met a lot of people, and just kind of actually being in the same room, sitting at a table with all these people, really took away some of the stigmas that, may have been, in the back of my mind. Like I didn't know anybody that worked for Aspen. I was from Southern California. Nobody worked there. So I didn't know anybody personally. So just being able to talk to people face to face and realize they were normal, pretty cool people. The doctors that worked there
That's a lie.
they reminded me of dental, all the dental students I knew. Like there was just kind of sitting down and going to one of these events and talking to people, it kind of demystified everything. It was like, hey, these are normal dental students, and that made me feel comfortable.
Awesome. And then when you decided, all right, out of California, how did that process go as far as who did you talk to and how did that go?
Yeah. So Chris, I moved along. I forget his name. He passed me along though. And so I started talking to
Probably to Jim Medina.
Jim. I forget his name. He was a bald guy. Was
Michael O'Connor?
No, I don't think it's a company.
Anyways, go on.
Yeah, so him and I started chatting. So I remember I was actually, it was in the afternoon. I just finished clinic, and he gave me a call, and I was standing right outside the clinic at UCLA, and we chatted for a few minutes. I kind of told him, what I was looking for, and he hits me with, well, hey, how about Birmingham, Alabama? And I was trying to be professional. I was like, you know what, sir, I don't know anything about it. Let me look into it. So we hung up. We were like, let's touch bases later this week. I went on Wikipedia, I read about Birmingham for a few minutes, and I was like, I don't think this is the place for me. But then I looked, and Reb didn't even go to Alabama. So I used that excuse. I was like, hey, Reb, I can't even get licensed there. So, so basically they were open, man. There's opportunities all over the country. So the first one they shot at me, it just, for licensure, mostly it didn't work. So then he was like, okay, where can you get licensed? And I kind of looked around the map and I asked, hey, what do you have for me in Texas? And he immediately was like, you and Dr. Altawadi will get along.
That's awesome.
And he was absolutely right. Like, so I mentioned at the interview, him and I got along right away, having mutual friends. And it turned out he just bought, he was single at the time, and he just bought a 4-bedroom house right next to his office. So once I decided to work there, he was just like, "Hey man, I have 4 bedrooms. Why don't you just come live with me?" So I was like, "Sure."
I remember the first time I heard that story, I went, I never thought I would ever hear that. So
It was awesome.
If and when you just decide to join, make sure you ask your owner doc if you can stay with them.
Yeah, hey, can I move in? Yeah, yeah, and yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm just giving a shout out. The UCLA cabinet just joined, so we got some more peeps that are coming in.
Cool.
See those questions coming in, Maya. So bring them in. Awesome. So let's talk about, once you decided, all right, I'm going to Texas. Oh, you know what? Let's take a step back. I got a question here. I've been sitting on this one. I'm a D4, and I know your vibe session's coming up soon. Can you talk a little bit about what to expect?
So, I'll let you take that one first, Derek.
Cool. Yeah. So like Dr. Evans mentioned, the vibe session is an opportunity for you to get to learn more about the company, right? First and foremost, about what initiatives we have going on. There's a huge technology initiative that's going on right now, and I'll actually mention this towards the end regarding the implant live session with Dr. Wall. It also gives you an opportunity to see all the different other dental students. So I know it's going to be a little bit harder with these times, and we will be doing it virtually sometime in November. But this is a way for you to get to learn the deep and dirty, not only from the support side like myself, but from real life doctors just like Dr. Evans, from other associate doctors that are recently just starting, from lead doctors, ones that have been around for 60 to 90 days or even longer, and from owner doctors. Some of them have been around for over 20 years. And it's panel related. And then on top of that, you'll hear from the clinical support team. And the clinical support team are doctors. And what they do is they work more on the support side to support those doctors. I believe right now there are 5 of them. And you just get to hear anything and everything related to how you're going to be supported, and what the experience is like working with the company. Dr. Evans, what do you remember from that? Because I know it's been a little bit, it's been what, like 3 years since it happened, but what do you remember from those vibe sessions?
Yeah. I mean, the first one was 3 years ago, but before COVID, I've gotten the opportunity to go on a couple. And I mean, the biggest thing that stands out is you just, I would say networking. You just, you can meet so many different people from all over the country, all over the world if you really extend it. But you just meet a ton of cool people, and it's almost like being, it's almost just like being on a team. It's like you meet a bunch of people, and it's so easy to just approach people and talk to people because you're all just, you're all on the same team, and, you really can just learn something from everybody. So it's like, I've found, striking up a conversation with, just really anybody, that you can learn a different aspect of, the way the company works. And so, you end up meeting people and making connections. And through those vibe sessions, obviously you have a ton of fun too. There's always an event. There's always something. There's a lot of fun that goes on in addition to the networking and the learning. But through that stuff, you end up, you get some phone numbers, and, like I know a girl who's doing a ton of Invisalign. She was in Chicago. Now she's up in Michigan. And if I have an Invisalign question, I'd shoot her a text. Or, there's some guys I met that I know are doing a ton of implants and all on fours and overdentures. I'm not doing all that quite yet, but if I have an implant question, I shoot them an X-ray, shoot them an email, and, they'll, and they're in Florida and they can answer my questions. So just kind of opens doors for communications and, just different ways that, you can get help on a day-to-day basis.
That's awesome. I'm getting some funny questions coming in. Let's just jump into it. This may be a stupid question, but when you came on the DSO team, were you expected to purchase any of your own equipment? Is there anything you would suggest buying?
No, the one thing you do need is a good set of loops. you know, that you got to cover on your own. But that and some new scrubs. I'd recommend getting some figs. Ever since I transitioned to figs, I've been very comfortable. That's not sponsored by figs, but
We
yeah.
just
So
gave
really,
away figs at a PPID social for you guys on Mondays, so it's funny.
okay. No, figs are great. But yeah, really, I mean, the only thing you have to buy are your scrubs and your loops. Day-to-day clinical stuff, it's all there. It's all in the office. And there's this whole online requisition system that's through the Aspen website, and it's basically linked to Henry Schein. So you look in the Henry Schein, like let's say there's something you don't like, there's burrs that you want, or there's a cement that you want to use, whatever you want. If the office doesn't already have it, you just order it through the rec system. And I've never gotten any pushback or anything, you know, from ordering the stuff that I want to order.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, the Henry Schein catalog is pretty large too. So
Massive. You tell the DA
yeah,
to go find a burr in the Henry Schein catalog, and either you won't get that burr, you won't see the DA for the rest of the day because they'll be digging through the book.
I mean, we're the second largest purchaser of Henry Schein products behind the federal government. So keep that in mind, and that also shows that we have a good relationship with them. All right, I'm going to ask one more question about transitioning from school into being a new dentist. What about being a UCLA student prepared you for operating your practice with its current success? And what do you wish you prepared more while in school, knowing what you know now?
Yeah. So go back, ask that again. Those two questions, Derek.
I know. like, like for UCLA, what prepared you for becoming a new dentist? And
Oh,
then
yeah. So yeah.
what do you wish you did more while in school?
So the thing that UCLA prepared us the most, who's on this call, Derek? Is it all UCLA kids?
Yeah, it's all UCLA.
All UCLA. Okay. So the thing that prepared me most was, okay, so when I moved out there, I mentioned Dr. Altawadi went to USC.
Yeah.
There was another new grad that worked with us as well, and he also went to USC. And the foundations of medicine, like basically, I mean, UCLA, they pretty much, you know, it's a modified med school. Like there's such an emphasis on taking medical histories, you know, how their systems, how everything's linked to doing dentistry. So I just knew way more about medicine and treating patients on different medications with different medical conditions than the USC guys. Like I would bring something up about a new patient, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? Like, you've never heard that." So I was much more prepared from a medical standpoint than them, which is a great thing, because that you always get better with your hands. But that medical stuff, it's tough to learn without that good foundation. So they, you know, Dr. Unai, you hooked it up. She, her lectures were great. So yeah, definitely prepared. I felt very comfortable, you know, either treating patients that were medically compromised or being well aware enough to not treat them based off their medical history. So
Awesome.
I've kept myself out of trouble and, you know, kept the patient safe. What
Awesome.
I wish I did more of, absolutely everything. I wish I did more extractions. I wish I prepped more crowns. I probably, you know what I would have done in hindsight was, dude, I didn't like, I mean, I knew at the time, but you didn't really know that, like, dude, those guys at UCLA, like Dr. Hewlett, like everybody, like they are like at the top of the dental world. Like they're the ones putting out the research. They're the ones publishing papers. You know, and I've talked, you know, you talk to all them in class, you may ask them a question here or there, but if I were like, you know, like a second year or third year dental student right now, I would be knocking on their doors daily, like trying to pick the brain of all those people, just because why not? You know, you're there and you have that resource. So yeah,
Great point.
Yeah,
so you're looking back, you're like, yeah, don't ever give up. Don't ever wish you got older.
Yeah, you don't realize it, man. You're like, those guys are smart, and you're like, I go to Google something, and you find a paper by, you know, a doctor that used to teach me, and you're like, damn, why didn't I ask them more questions? Like that was dumb.
You know, they're still there for you if you ever want to reach out.
I think you're right.
So, all right, let's start talking about kind of inside the office now. You are now a new dentist. These are going to be questions kind of based more towards that. How many people work inside your office? And I guess we can say how many people kind of work in the average office as well.
Yeah, so kind of on average, I mean, there's excuse me, in front.
When I just count them out, I'll keep my hands up.
So we have 3 in the front. There's basically the secretary, we call it the PSR. There's an office manager, and then a treatment plan coordinator. So that's 3. Then there's sorry, I might have repeated myself, but yeah, then there's myself. Then we have a hygienist. I have 3 dental assistants, and then a lab technician. So that is 3, 6, 9. Yeah. So there's
9, and then on top of that, you will eventually have an endodontist and an oral surgeon, correct?
Yeah, we have our oral surgeon. He's starting. Most offices have these already, but since I'm at a new office in a new area, we're just hiring them on. So yeah, our oral surgeon's actually starting October 5th. He's super cool dude. He's from Southern California. He went to UCLA dental school. Mm-hmm. And then our endodontist, I believe, is starting at the end of October. So we have everything. Like when I opened up, I have a brand new cone beam. We just ordered everything for the surgeon, his whole implant kit, all his tools, all his stuff for sedation. And then we ordered everything for the endodontist. We have all his instruments. We got a mobile microscope. So we have everything. Like it is, everything's brand new, top of the line. And, we have all the bells and whistles.
Let's talk about that for a second. You mentioned cone beam. I'm going to put this up right now. How long have you been working with implants, and talk a little bit about how you were taught that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it started back at UCLA. Like, I feel like they got us a good foundation of it. I was able to restore a number of them while still in school. And then really from day one with Aspen, I started restoring them. I think in the first month of working, I made my first overdenture. And, before I did that, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so hard, so complicated. And then it's not that hard. It's not that complicated. I mean, obviously there's a lot of steps to it, but they kind of demystified it for me. So there's, basically been doing it since dental school.
That's awesome. So as you can see on the screen right now, I think you probably received some sort of email or notification about it. We're doing a live session with Dr. Sandeep Rawal. Dr. Evans and I just had a conversation about Dr. Rawal and how he's been helping him out. What sort of training or CEs have you experienced while at Aspen Dental? Have you had any? I know we're rolling it out officially in the beginning of 2021, but what have you experienced so far?
So there's been a lot. There's as much CE available as you're interested in. You don't have to do any. There's no mandatory CE, but there is a lifetime's worth of CE available. Talking about Dr. Rawal, he's up. So I've never met him in person, but I would say I'm forever grateful to him, because during shutdowns, everything was shut down for 7 or 8 weeks. And so I was at home, nothing to do. And Dr. Rawal did 3 hours every day of live, not pre-recorded, of live implant education. Like from the start, diagnosis and treatment planning with CT, making surgical guides, single implant, overdenture, all on 4, literally 3 hours a day. I woke up every morning and just sat on a live session with Dr. Rawal. And it was similar to this, where it was just an open Q&A. So I learned a ton there. And I'm doing an implant bridge on my dad. And I figured, hey, I got this great resource available. This guy's done God knows how many full arch cases. I'm just going to ask him for his help. I want to nail this for my dad. And so I shot him an email. I sent him some pictures. He immediately asked for my cell phone number. We talked for an hour. He kind of talked to me through everything. I've been sending him pictures along the way. And so he's been, I didn't expect that at all. And he's gone above and beyond for, and I've never even met the guy, and he's helped me out so much. I've learned a ton from him.
Yeah, keep in mind, there's, on the business support side, there's over 2,000 people. So, we have over 800, I think we are at 828 offices, and 2,000 people support those 828 offices. And perfect example of like, yeah, I mean, it's just a big network of people, and I didn't expect them to give me a call or to talk to them. And I think that's really the really cool part about it. So, for everybody on here, if you're interested, and yourself included, Dr. Evans, go check out that bit.ly link. And this will be coming up on Monday, the 21st at 6. This is exclusive to District 11 ASDA. So this is an amazing opportunity. And I think everybody will definitely learn a whole lot, whether or not you're ready to learn about implants. This guy comes with a wealth of knowledge. He's done over 300 keynote presentations, and he's a well-known doctor internationally as well. So it's a cool experience.
He is, yeah. There was a global Nobel implant symposium. They did it virtually. They made it free because of COVID. And he was one of like the 8 speakers of like the other speakers were from like literally Spain and Italy. And then Dr. Rawal was one of them. He's literally an internationally known speaker.
That's crazy. That's really cool. So I'm excited for that. And hopefully you'll join me too. And everybody that I'm looking at, hopefully you'll join me too. Let's get back on track. I love how these go. There's like no structure at all. What hours does a new dentist work per week? How does they get paid? I know you kind of mentioned that a little bit. We'll cover that again.
Yeah. So hours, I mean, it's actually not, I hope nobody hears this, but it's really not even that bad. Like right now, right now I work Monday to Wednesday, 8 to 5, Thursdays, 10 to 7, and then Fridays, 8 to 1. So that's only 37 hours a week on the schedule. And then we do one Saturday a month, and I pick that Saturday. So I even change them sometimes. Like I actually just changed our November Saturday because we're doing something for my dad's birthday. So it's, as long you can't change the day before, but it's relatively flexible. It's up to us when we do it. Is an associate though, it would be similar hours to that, it's an 8 to 5. Some states like California has different labor laws. So in Texas, we were open 7:30 to 5:30. So the office was open an extra hour. And then payment, I don't know what you probably know more about that than me.
Yeah, you mentioned a daily guarantee rate, obviously, because the owner doctors are making 100% of the decisions that happen inside that office. That is something that you discuss with them. Obviously, as far as an average go, we're going to be above industry standard when it comes to California. I think the average industry standard for California is 120,000 a year. We're at about 150. But it is technically broken down into a daily guarantee rate, which means that you can make no less than that amount that you discuss. And maybe, Dr. Evans, you can talk real briefly on this part, because I know it can get really slippery, about kind of how profit sharing is and how profit sharing and the daily guarantees kind of work.
Yeah, I mean, so essentially the way the profit sharing works is, as an associate, you get 8 to 10% of the office's profit. So let's say you were making, I don't know, 500 or 600 a day. That's, a relatively average starting point. So let's say you got paid $12,000 from your daily draw. And then based off of your profit sharing, your 8 to 10%, it worked out to $15,000. So you'd get a $3,000 bonus check with, it's usually about a month later. The incentives are delayed a month, but you get your profit sharing check, about a month later.
And so what does that profit sharing kind of consist of? Do you know the kind of the sections, or you're like, I just trust that it's going properly?
Oh yeah, no, I know. I mean, we're the 8, because I say 8 to 10%. It's not just thrown at a dartboard. That's based off of the patient satisfaction. So like
Exactly.
when the new patients come in, they get sent an email like, hey, how was your visit? Would you recommend this office to a family or friend? And if they give you 9s and 10s, your score is higher. So if you're getting consistently good surveys and your patients like you, you get closer to that 10%. Whereas I don't even know how you'd get the 8%. Patients would have to hate you, but It's based off base, so it's just another incentive. I mean, obviously, you always want to like make. You always want to. You never want unhappy patients. Unhappy patients give you headaches, and headaches aren't good. So just just keeping the patients happy, you can literally end up getting an extra couple grand just from getting some good surveys. So when
That's awesome.
patients like you, you just say, hey, you might get a survey. Can you fill that out? I never say that. I have my dental assistants say that. Because I just don't like to do that. So if everything's going well, the assistants know to say, hey, just make sure you fill out your survey. So yeah, you can end up making more money.
So let's end this with one final thing. So the daily guarantee rate there is just to ensure that will be the minimum amount of money that you can make.
Yeah.
Often than not, if you're doing really well and you have patients coming in and you treat them well and you're working really well together, not just with hygiene and any other things that are being done in that office, including endodontists and oral surgeons, you're going to be financially successful as well on top of that. And that's kind of the thing that we want everybody to know, is that it's not an individualized effort. You're not getting paid on a percentage of collection or production. It's an office success and patient satisfaction based motivator. So that's kind of the fun part about it, is you don't have to sit there and stress like I'm jumping in and I have to get this person that walks through the door while Dr. X is helping somebody else out. That's not how it works. We all work together, whether Dr. Evans does a procedure or if Dr. Evans has an associate eventually in that office. If that associate does it, that is considered a success for the office if it's done inside the walls. Anything else to add before we move on?
No, I mean, that's exactly right. Like especially early on, like there would be days where like I would just assist Dr. Altawadi. Like I would just kind of watch for everything, whether it's a filling, like you can always learn. Like I never felt like it's just a filling. It's like, no, I was like, let me watch this guy do a filling. Let me watch him do a crown. Let me watch him give an injection, so you don't feel like you don't feel that pressure to, oh man, I just wasted an hour, I didn't produce. It's like, all right, you're guaranteed. And in the long run, everybody's going to benefit from this. And same thing with like the oral surgeon. When I was in San Antonio, I had a great relationship with that oral surgeon. We're still friends to this day. And he was doing a bunch of cool implant cases. We did some all-on-4 stuff. And I would just block my schedule and then I'd go hang out with him. I would just hang out with him. I would assist the surgeon, and, it was good experience for me. And again, I wasn't stressed about, oh man, because you're guaranteed that salary.
That's awesome. I got a question about loans. Paying off your loans in 2 to 10 years, it's possible, or over the long term. Thoughts?
Oh man. I mean, well, student loans suck. I could go on a huge rant about that. I guess just to be objective about it, like I've talked to some people and read some things that suggest that if your loans are more than 1.5 times your salary, that you should just pay them off aggressively. And if your loans are more than 1.5 times your salary, you should probably just do IBR. So that's kind of a good baseline to go about it. So like I said, I ignored my loans for a while. So I graduated in June of 17. Then you get the deferment till December. And I just kept ignoring them because I did IBR. So my payment was zero because I didn't make any money in the previous year's tax returns. So I ignored it. In February of 2018, I didn't pay a cent of my student loan, and I bought a house. I bought a condo in Austin, Texas. Awesome little condo right by downtown. Awesome. And would I do that again in hindsight? That probably wasn't the best idea. So I bought a condo before paying off a cent. And that's when I realized, like, all right, dude, you can't just keep ignoring these. And then so for about 2 years straight, from April of 18 till the pandemic, I paid off my loans so aggressively, like literally every extra cent I have. I probably went too aggressive. Like I would put so much towards my loans, I'd be broke. Like I'd have like $4 in my checking because I just put $9,000 towards my student loan. And awesome. So I probably pushed myself to the edge a little too much. So I haven't paid them off yet, but I've put like well over half, like, you know, so it's still over $100,000, but like looking at $100,000 makes me feel a lot better than looking at 350.
So
So
you're shooting for the it's possible part. You're shooting for
oh yeah, it is
out of the way.
possible. So I'm pumping the brakes a little bit. I think I'm just going to start now that my payments are lower and the interest, like just watching your loan go up by so much every day, that used to give me anxiety. So now that the interest is, you know, it's not accruing so fast every single day, I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit. But no, for sure. It's, I mean, granted, I'm single, I don't have kids, whatever. So yeah, if you're super aggressive with it, 2 or 3 years is very possible. Is it the smartest decision? Depends on who you talk to.
So there, you heard it, folks. There, you can wait and pay it off over 30 years, or you can kind of get it done as soon as possible. There's a healthy balance. Anything in between is not considered a bad decision. And that you heard it from one of the docs himself. All right. How many patients do you see each day typically? I can help out with the average as well.
Yeah, average. It totally varies. Right now here, you know, because we're new here in Southern California, so I'm not as busy as I was in Texas. It wouldn't be crazy to see, you know, maybe 15 or 20 patients a day, sometimes more, sometimes less in Texas. Now here in California, I'm probably, honestly, anywhere from 10 to 15. And it's not like dental school, you know, like I'm not doing a crown prep or multiple crown preps on every patient. You know, some included in that is, you know, exams, a denture adjustment, you know, a denture step, like I just take a wax bite, it takes 3 minutes. So it's not like I'm doing 25 crown preps. I mean, that'd be cool, but that's not how it is.
And just to confirm, you're basically working from 3 chairs when something is waiting. Like, can you explain a little bit how that works as far as your juggling?
Yeah. Well, so like you said, there's 3 chairs. There's a production chair, there's a new patient chair, and then there's an overflow chair. And yeah, and basically, so you got your production, you know, fillings, crowns, extractions, root canals. New patients are just that. They're new patients. They've never been to any Aspen Dental before. And then the overflow is your denture steps, your post-ops, stuff like that. And I mean, you have full control over it. That is something that I learned early on, was if you don't control your schedule, your days can be very bad. You know, so after a couple months of working, you're just like, okay, hey, maybe I shouldn't schedule X with Y. Maybe I should do those at separate times. Maybe if I'm doing a full mouth extraction, I should not have anything in overflow. You know, if I'm doing this in production, I can have 2 people in overflow, and my day can go smooth. So, you know, and that's something that every doctor's different with, but I'm a little bit OCD. I like to stay on time every time. Like, I don't like to work into lunch. I don't like my staff to work into lunch. I don't like patients waiting. I don't like staying late. Obviously it happens for sure, but like I try to stay on schedule all day, every day. Like if it's 8:10 in the morning and I haven't numbed my patient, I start to get I'm like, dude, we're already 10 minutes behind, guys. Like, let's go. Like, so those and little things like that. Like, I didn't realize that when I first started, that, oh, the assistants are setting up. If I get them numb at 8:30, it's no problem. And then you work 30 minutes into lunch and you're like, why did I work 30 minutes into lunch? Because I started 30 minutes late. So I try to stay on top. I look at my schedule every day. If there's something I don't like if there's 2 things scheduled at the same time that I don't want to be there, I have my office manager reschedule them.
That's awesome. And can you briefly, first of all, we got about 6 minutes left. I want to be respectful of Dr. Evans' time and everybody else's time. I got a ton more questions. We're not going to cover everything, so I apologize. But can you talk about kind of the whole scheduling process? Because I know, I have a feeling people are sitting here going, that sounds like a lot of work, but how did you first start with your scheduling technique, and kind of what is the experience as far as getting better, and how does that all work?
Um, well, so the way it started, or for me at least, is just I just was, yeah, whatever, put it wherever, get them
They
in.
ask you how
They,
long it takes for you to do certain things, and
okay, yeah. So at
yeah,
the very very beginning, like day
yeah,
one,
at the very beginning, yeah.
the very beginning, day one. So basically, we just shadowed Dr. Altawadi. I didn't touch a patient for the first week. We literally just followed him around the office like little ducklings, and just kind of saw how
And
things,
got paid.
yeah, and got paid,
Yeah.
and just kind of saw how things were done, how things, basically just how it went. Then starting the second week, we kind of did it like dental school. We just booked like one patient in the morning, one patient in the afternoon. Second, or like third, fourth week, we started doing like two patients. And then we kind of only did production for, at least the first 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then after that is when we were like, okay, hey, I feel, I'm getting comfortable with doing those fillings, with doing a crown prep. And then we kind of just started working in like, all right, hey, I'll see this new patient in between my two fillings patients. And, you just kind of slowly build it from there. And it really what, as long as you're kind of stepwise, and I don't know, you got to become a proponent of recognizing, like, what do they call it? Like self-awareness, like
Yeah, of
recognizing
course.
what type of situations do I enjoy? What type of situations bring me stress? And then, when you reflect at the end of the day and you're like, okay, hey, I was stressed out at this point in time. Why was I stressed out? And then you say, oh, okay, because I booked this with this, and I should have known it would have been tough for me to do all that at the same time. So the next time that situation presents itself, you say, no, I'm not going to do that. Let's move this around to where things will flow a little bit more smoothly. So you got to be a little self-aware, and everyone's different. Like there's some schedules that I know other doctors that run their schedule. I would say every doctor wants their schedule differently. So that's something that each person needs to kind of become comfortable with on their own.
That's awesome. So we're going to make this the final question. It's going to be, again, I apologize, but we can always have this discussion offline with anybody else that had continuous questions. Um, let's make it kind of based around from when you started, like your title. Were you listed as an associate, or did you start as a lead?
I started as associate, yeah.
Okay, and then kind of how did the company help you kind of grow within your route to being the first owner in California?
Yeah, so that's something that, how should I phrase this? Basically, I was always very open and honest with my goals and aspirations. There's some people who, they think, oh, if I say this, maybe that, but like, no, from day one, I said, hey, I want to own multiple practices. So from day one, and I told everybody that. And so from day one, everyone was like, okay, hey, let's get this guy there. So I was an associate for about 4 months. At that point, Dr. Altawadi went to go work at his other office, not full time. He would still come to my office 2 days a week. So that was cool because, like, I could handle most of the stuff, but there were some patients that I was like, ooh, I would like a little backup for this. So I would schedule those on the days Dr. Altawadi was there. But at that point, after 4 months, when he went to the other office, I did become the lead doctor there. So I got a raise, you get a little bit more profit sharing. So that was awesome. I did that for about 7 or 8 months. And then at that point is when, oh man, that's when my whirlwind kind of started. After about, working with him for just about a year, I moved to San Antonio, which was about, only 45 miles south of where I was working at that point. And I opened an office from scratch on my own. So at that point, I started practicing on my own. And that was when the Aspen network really started to help me because, like I just mentioned, at that first office, I had Dr. Altawadi in the flesh to, just bounce things off of, show him things. And then when I went out on my own, it was like, oh man, I didn't have him in person, but I still had him. I would still, I lived with the guy a couple months before. So I would still see him. I would still call him. And then that was when I started reaching out to all the other doctors I'd met in the network. Like, I'd send the surgeon a medical history. Hey, dude, is it cool if I do this? I'd send in, one guy a pano. Hey, what do you think about this? And so that was when the whole like network really started helping me being on my own, because I know just at that point in my life, if I was completely on my own, it would have been a lot harder for me. it's nice to get a confirmation about something either before doing it or before not doing it. So that helped a lot.
That's awesome. Well, that's it, folks. First of all, thank you so much, Dr. Evans.
Yeah, that was fun.
I love doing this. We do this like once a month, and I think this gives us an opportunity to hang out, and then also it gives everybody, especially at UCLA, to give an opportunity to see a graduate of UCLA can do. You're the first owner in California, and I think that really shows a lot about your drive and everything. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to make sure to put up his contact information. I'm doing that right now. Real quickly, one more time. On Monday, we are having a live session for implant dentistry with Dr. Wall. You see the bit.ly there. I'll make sure to send it out in the email. I also mentioned the free CEs. I'll make sure to send that in an email too. If anybody has any questions, I did not ask for Dr. Evans's authorization on this, but there's his email.
Yeah, you can do it.
If my phone number.
If you guys want my phone number, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help and answer whatever questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Derek, I think you have a career in podcasting, man. You could be the next Joe Rogan.
Yeah. He goes for 3.5 hours. I don't know if I can go that long, but no. Hey, this hour is perfect.
Yeah.
You're going to be my first guest if we do that.
Deal.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. Enjoy your night. Stay cool, folks. All right. See you, Doc. We'll talk soon.
Later, man.
Bye. See ya.